Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So it's time to talk about the latest addition to the Final Destination horror franchise, Final Destination 6 Bloodlines, which I went to see yesterday, and I have to say, as per my short video, I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought this was one of the better films in this franchise, and I will go on to explain why I think this was one of the better films in the franchise as I go through this film review. To start with, of course, those of you not familiar with Final Destination, what it's all about, I'll very briefly describe what usually happens and actually how this film entry is very slightly different to those previous films that we've had in this franchise. So to start with, you usually have someone who has a premonition, a vision of something very bad that's about to happen, usually an accident or a disaster where lots of people are killed. Now, what then happens is that they realise that this premonition is actually about to happen, and they stop these events and thereby save everyone involved in that accident. However, because these people were supposed to have died, death still comes after them, rather like a masked killer would in slasher films of the 70s and 80s. And this is almost a bit like kind of slasher film setups, but it has this death by design element instead of a masked killer. So death is still coming after these people that weren't supposed to survive these events but did. Now, going by the law in these films, you can survive, it seems, death. There is a way out, but they're quite extreme ways of either killing someone else, I believe, or actually dying yourself and somehow, being resuscitated, being brought back to life, as it were. And in this film, what's different about this is instead of the film following a sequence of people being killed off from the original event, it's actually following family trees here. So at the start of the film, you still see a vision of an event from a visionary, in this case, a character Iris, played by Brett Basinger. And she foresees people dying a horrific death in this sky tower where they're I think they're like tourists, or they're going to a restaurant in the 1960s period, and I quite liked the way that was all done. But of course, she manages to save them. We find out slightly later in the film. But because she's saved them, of course, death is still coming after them. But what's happened is death hasn't caught up with this group of people. They've got generations that have actually survived, but death is actually this time killing them off through sort of in order of their bloodlines, hence the name Final Destination Bloodlines. And of course, our main character in this film, who becomes the lead of the film a little bit later after the premonition sequence, her name is Stephanie Reyes. I think really brilliantly portrayed here by the actress whose name is Caitlin Santos-Ruana. I just had to check that. And I think that she does a really good performance. I've had one or two people criticise her actually, but I really liked her. I thought she's one of the best leads we've had in these films for sure. Next to the likes, I would say, Devon Sawa and maybe Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Actually, she was very good too in the Final Destination 3 film. She was great. But I thought she was a strong lead. And beyond that, I do think you had some other good performances in this film as well. Obviously, you also had the older Iris. I thought she was really good. She was good, played by Gabrielle Rose. And I liked the wild cousin that was playing Eric Campbell. He was good as well. And I liked what he brought to that character. You know, something a little bit comedic, but still relatively believable as well. Now we move on to one of the bigger aspects of these films. As with a lot of horror films and slasher films, we come for the kills. We're not necessarily here for deep stories and lots of meaningful analysis. We know we're here to see people get struck off in really genius and bizarre ways. And in Final Destination, these accidents often are triggered by very small things, like something falling off a kitchen work surface, or apologies, that's my laptop, or well, hopefully my laptop's not about to catch fire or something. But these kind of ways are ways that people die in this franchise. It's little things, little triggers in this film. A lot of the time it's sort of the rolling coin going into places you don't want the rolling coin to go and causing accidents. I mean, for me, they stretched that out a bit much in this film. They exaggerated, I think, sometimes the little triggers and made them almost over elaborate, but that's Final Destination for you, and it's kind of part of what is the entertainment of these films. My favourite kills, just to sort of say what those were in this film, were almost certainly the death of the dad via the lawnmower incident. I would say also really enjoyed the MRI scan kills with the brothers who were the cousins. Oh, I think, yeah, the cousins of the main character, Stephanie here. And also the kill, which was the waste disposal truck one. I thought that was a brilliant kill, one of the best kills. All three of those kills, actually, of the best of the entire franchise, let alone just this one particular entry. For me, to move on to, I've talked about the positives. I like the spin on the original concept here. I like some of the performances a lot in this film. Particularly, I've shouted out Caitlin Sanjuana, Gabrielle Rose, and Richard Harmon. I thought that the kills were entertaining, and I do think that it's if you like the original films, I think you'll like this one. I think you'll definitely like this one. I think you'll be generally entertained by it. My negatives about this one was I wasn't so keen, firstly, on the way this film ended, although saying that, I liked how Lulu's shout came in at the end to sort of dovetail with how it was used earlier in the film. I thought that was quite clever. I wasn't so keen personally on the premonition sequence in terms of the deaths of that sequence in this one. I do like probably one of my least favourite sequences personally. I also don't feel like tonally, because I guess it was a period piece, but at first it took me a while to realise it was a period piece, which it shouldn't if it's a period kind of element to this film. And it just felt a bit disjointed with what I thought was the rest of the film, where the tone was slightly, very slightly different to me anyway, the way I was watching the film. So I found that a little bizarre. I thought it was just slightly over elaborate, this premonition sequence. Yes, they're usually a bit over, a bit, what's the word? Far-fetched. But I thought other sequences, like in the first film and the second film, were excellent premonition sequences. And I don't think we've ever really beaten those earlier film sequences. I feel like 4's wasn't very good. 5 was quite good. And this film, for me, I wasn't as keen on this particular premonition. But, other things I will say, I cannot finish this review without mentioning the late, great Tony Todd and his little performance in here, and also how they worked that into the film, which was a touch of genius. And, for me, besides the entertainment aspect of this film and some of the performances, was one of the strongest points of this film was how they did that, how beautifully it was done. The little boy being saved at the start turns out to be Tony Todd's character. And I thought that was done very subtly and very cleverly. And it's a beautiful moment, and I really enjoyed that in Final Destination 6, a suitable tribute to the man himself, Mr. Tony Todd. And thank you for all you've done in these Final Destination films in the past. Just a real sort of always something you look out for is when he comes into the film. He adds a bit of emotion, I think, to these films, which are generally sort of, pretty wild and all over the place. But I kind of feel like these kind of characters like his bring it down to earth a bit more. And finally, as a metalhead, I have to say this. Those of you with keen ears will have noticed there was a metal song in this film during the nearly death of Eric Campbell, when he has the weird thing going on with his piercings. Right? Evil, Enter the Grave, played during this film. And why do I get so excited about it? Because it's usually the big metal bands that get the airtime on these films, particularly more recently, I would say, and in TV shows. But we got an underground metal band song here in a big horror film franchise. Whoever did this and chose that song, congrats. It worked really well with the scene as well. What a great selection, and giving Evil, who I think are one of the best thrash metal bands we've had in more recent times, props to you. Anyway, thanks very much everyone for watching this film review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you also loved the movie. Or if you didn't, then just let me know in the comments. Of course, I don't expect everyone to enjoy films when I enjoy them. That would be absurd. Let me know maybe what you liked less about this one. whether it's the same as what I thought were some of the weaker points of this film. I mean, CGI was also not great. I did mention that in my short review, or my short film comments yesterday too. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this film review. And until next time, from me, it's bye for now.